Volvo's XC90 showcases cutting-edge technology in Recharge T8 plug-in hybrid guise. There's 30 miles of all-electric driving range, a CO2 figure of just 61 grams per kilometre and a 3-figure fuel return. All delivered with the ability, denied to customers of some other large crossovers, to take 7 passengers in comfort. Here's a family-sized SUV more ready than most for a very different world.
The Recharge T8 badging applied to this car denotes its petrol-electric powertrain and its plug-in hybrid usability. In fact, there are 3 engines if you're going to be pedantic about it and count the 25 brake horsepower starter motor generator, which pitches in from time to time to smooth out any gaps in torque delivery between the 2 main power sources. One of these is a 303 horsepower turbocharged supercharged petrol unit that's borrowed from the old conventional T6 model, and it's there to drive the front wheels. In an XC90 T8 though, it's assisted by a separate engine at the back, an 87 brake horsepower electric motor powered by a battery pack which is neatly packaged away in the transmission tunnel. It's all enough to deliver a set of stats that it's quite hard to get your head around. So 386 horsepower and 62 miles an hour from rest in just 5.8 seconds, the kind of storming performance you'd get in a segment from, say, Porsche Cayenne S, matched with real-world fuel and CO2 readings, which could potentially equal those of a frugal Super Mini. You can even go a fraction faster if you pay extra for the Polestar Performance software optimization option that we have here, which boosts engine output to 317 horsepower. Either way, for ultimate performance, you'll need to select the most performance-orientated of the 5 driving settings which T8 owners are offered. The power mode, which sees both the petrol and electric units permanently working together. Alternatively, there are 4 other drive choices: a hybrid setting that sees the 2 engines cutting in and out as necessary, an all-wheel drive mode that gives you permanent 4x4 traction off-road, plus a pure electric setting that only uses the battery power and can take you up to 30.4 miles. That's more than most people's daily commuting distance on a single charge. There is even a save option too, so that on a longer trip you can hold on to the charge until you get to the city driving that you might have to do at the end of it. The look of this second generation XC90, according to its exterior design manager Anders Gunnarsson, needed to be timeless. If, like its predecessor, its model life has to stretch across the decades, then you can certainly see why. Hence the considerable depth of thought, which has clearly gone into a sense of style reflective of brand values both old and new. So many large luxury SUVs appeal bulky and intimidating. This isn't one of them. Only very minor visual changes feature with this revised version of the Mark II model, things like tiny tweaks to the bumper and the air intakes, plus extra black trim on this R design model. There's also this slightly redesigned front grille, which as before features Volvo's traditional Iron Mark logo at its centre. Time to take a look inside. Now, we liked the front of cabin experience served up by this XC90 when we first tested it back in 2015. We still do. This interior is simple and elegant and very uncluttered, with only 8 buttons on the fascia. The remaining functions that you'd normally access through confusing little rows of switches on the dash have all been relocated into menu options that lie behind the big, easy-to-use icons you'll find on this smart 9-inch infotainment colour touchscreen, which is presented portrait style on the centre console. You'll glimpse more high-tech screen technology through this 3-spoke wheel, courtesy of Volvo's 12.3-inch active TFT crystal driver's information display. Otherwise though, this cabin is an aesthetic triumph. It's immaculately made and full of premium touches like this diamond cut start-stop control switch and a slatted cover for this centre dash compartment. Time to take a seat in the middle row. Your middle row passengers, they're very well catered for with individual seats which slide and recline for greater comfort on longer journeys. Now here we've got the optional huge panoramic glass roof fitted, and this gives this part of the cabin a light, airy feel, which is something that we think you'd really want in a 7-seat SUV. Right, what about this car's proper 7-seat functionality? It's time to put that aspect of this XC90 to the test. Getting into the back row does require a bit of muscular dexterity. And as an adult, you'll only be able to install yourself here with any kind of comfort if you prevail on those ahead of you to move their seats forward a bit. But if that's possible, we could believe that a couple of fully sized adults could cope okay back here over short to medium length journeys. As for the boot space on offer, well, that falls in comparison to the more conventional XC90 variants. With the T8 in 7-seat mode, it's 262 litres to the window line and 316 up to the roof. Most of the time, of course, though, you'll be running this car with the third row chairs folded down, and the retracting process is much easier than the back-breakingly fumbly machinations that you have to go through in a rival Land Rover Discovery to achieve the same end result. Once that's completed, there's a lot of room to play with. On this T8 variant, there's 640 litres if you load to the window line and as much as 967 if you load to the roof. You can improve on those figures by sliding the second row seats forward if you have uncomplaining middle row passengers on board, or by making the second row seat backs more upright. Getting more room, of course, means folding the middle row. On this T8 variant, that frees up 1,005 litres to the window line, or 1,816 litres if you load right up to the roof. As part of the changes made to this Mark II XC90 lineup, Volvo introduced a higher capacity battery to this T8 variant, which enhanced its all-electric driving range by around 15%, so it's up from 22 to 30.4 miles, a useful increase. Theoretically then, you could use an XC90 T8 every day without ever visiting a fuel station unless you needed to undertake a longer trip. That's assuming, of course, that you keep the lithium-ion battery fully charged. That'll take a little longer than before thanks to the bigger battery. Owners can buy a wall box from Volvo, which will charge their cars on 16 amp power in about 3 hours. If you're out and about and you can find a 10 amp public charging point, then the needed time will be slightly longer, around 4 hours, while connecting up to a normal domestic 3-pin 6 amp supply will take 8 hours. Ultimately, to justify this T8 model's price premium over the conventionally engined variants in the range, you really have to try to plug it in at every possible opportunity. Otherwise, you'll simply find yourself running a heavy petrol-powered SUV, and one that will need more frequent refueling than a more conventional XC90, because its fuel tank size falls from 71 to 50 litres due to the need to make space for the hybrid powertrain and the battery. If on the move you want to prioritise all-electric progress, then you can select a pure driving mode, which prioritises electric-only operation and will be useful in an urban environment. In everyday use, though, most T8 owners will be driving in the hybrid mode, which the car's powertrain automatically defaults to, a setting in which the vehicle will automatically alternate between petrol and electric power, and the basis for a faintly incredible sounding set of WLTP rated running cost figures, up to 104.5 miles per gallon on the WLTP combined cycle and up to 61 grams per kilometre of CO2. A driver performance option on the centre dash screen graphically shows how frugally you've been driving, and on this T8 model also includes an interactive graphic showing what's currently being powered by what. Volvo seems to be flourishing under foreign ownership, and this recharged T8 plug-in hybrid XC90 is a good example of why. You might have expected Chinese company control to stifle Volvo's Scandinavian character. Instead, what we've been given here is a return to Swedish charisma and an emphasis on all the things that the Gothenburg brand does best. Cool, restrained style, real-world practicality and class-leading safety. Of course, this Volvo's not perfect. There are still sharper handling choices and more capable off-roaders in the sector. In balancing these virtues, though, this XC90 sets its own class standard, and in doing so, it establishes a family benchmark amongst luxury SUVs that rivals will struggle to match. Add in the astonishingly low running costs which come with plug-in hybrid technology, and it's a difficult formula to resist if you're shopping in this segment. Company founders Assar Gabrielsen and Gustav Larsson would have liked this car. More importantly, though, if you're shopping in this segment, we think you will too.